down here in the shop, ready to measure the piston. We'll measure the piston.
Measure the piston.
Rojos piston.
Cut.
Cut! 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 Oh, hey, honey! Okay, everybody. I want you guys to see this miraculous drawing. This is what I do in church. Just so you all know. Isn't that awesome? That's my artistic capacity.
What's that there? That's like the pastor guy. Is it like you're getting head blown out or what? This
He's a dog. He's my dog.
Harpoon. I mean, what the hell's wrong with
It's
you?
a whale. Okay, everybody, come back down to the shop. We measure piston. Okay, everybody. So, how do you know if you have too much clearance? You hate too much clearance. No bueno.
No bueno.
Okay, no bueno. So what you're going to do is you're going to have a piece of paper, anything to write on that you can find again. You're going to measure the piston. These are micrometers. They're a little more accurate. You can use the slide dial things like this. They're a little easier to use. Maybe not as accurate, but probably close enough. Get those from Harbor Freight for 10 bucks on a sale. And what you're going to do is you're going to measure this piston. Now people ask, well, where do I measure it from? Pistons, when they're designed, the widest part of the piston is on the bottom part of the skirt. Never measure on the ring lands. These are called ring lands. Don't measure there. That's intentionally designed to be smaller in diameter and is not accurate. Okay? Of course, you're not going to measure across that way unless you're me when I'm a greenie starting out on this stuff. So you're going to measure across the skirt. The skirt. Speaking of, this bike, we're hoping ends up with a girl name, a female name, because we like the skirt. And what you do is you kind of try to find the widest point based on moving back and forth, up and down, in and out, up and down, in and out, widest point. Okay, that's pretty close right there. Okay, now I have to do this in English, okay? You can do millimeters and stuff, but I don't do well with millimeters, so this is 2 inches.
That's what she said.
2 inches long.
Millimeters.
2 millimeters long. 2 inches, 2.8. We've got another 9,000, so it's 2.80. Actually, it's 2.8088. 2.8088. 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. 2.8088 is the diameter of this, okay? Now, what we're trying to do is measure the clearance between the cylinder and the piston. That's going to tell us how much wear there is. You want to try to find the widest point. This will probably work. And the piston is moving up and down in the cylinder with the skirts front to back. So you're going to want to measure front to back. These little things squeeze in like this. And you go inside there and you feel up, you feel down, you feel around and around. Try to find the widest point, okay? Up towards the top of the cylinder. When you feel that widest point, you lock her in, okay? Now what you're going to do is you're going to take your handy little micrometer, you're going to measure this. That's going to tell you how wide that is. Okay, and that's 2.8106. 2.8106. And then you subtract for the difference. Here's where you do your little math action. Oh crap, I have to borrow. Everide, help! 0, 9, 6, so you got 8, 1, 0, 0. So you have less than 2/1000ths of an inch's clearance, which actually is fine. So
if Mr. Duffactor's mathematics are correct.
My what?
Ooh.
So if my math is correct, the cylinder, the clearance between the cylinder and the piston is less than 2/1000ths of an inch. 1.5 to 2/1000ths of an inch is actually pretty good. The problem is the damage to the cylinder. Okay, so if it was nice and smooth and there was some crosshatch still, crosshatch. Okay, if I can get the right, can you see that, Tyler? I'm looking at this bottom part right here. There we go. If you can see, there's some little cross pattern of the machining in this cylinder. It's called crosshatch. Let me see if I can find a better example. Oh, you have to get the light just right. But if you have that on your whole cylinder and you have less than 2/1000ths clearance, that's great. The problem is this cylinder down in here, it's been damaged, it's corroded, it's not smooth anymore. So that means the cylinder would have to be redone anyway. So it's not a problem with clearance, it's a problem with having the having that damage in the middle of the cylinder. So to measure if you've got too much clearance, you measure the inner diameter of this, the outer diameter of this, subtract the difference, and that tells you your clearance. Now you can also measure crosswise, and you can measure at the bottom of the cylinder, and that'll tell you if you have taper or out of round. If it's out of round or you have taper in your cylinder, you got to remachine it because you're losing tons of power, because every time this piston goes down, the rings compress tighter, and as it goes up, they get loose and you get blow by. So the horsepower with boring, everybody talks about boring the cylinder and it's bored 30 over or 10 over or whatever. The size is not, the increase in diameter is not what's giving you the increase in power. It's actually making that cylinder round again so you get a good tight seal with your piston rings. That's where the power comes from. So for this bike, we know what we're going to do there. Now come over to the head real quick. I want to just show you guys so you kind of see, people talk about adjusting their valves. How do I do that? Well, this little round piece right there is called a spring retainer. Okay, it's just a spring retainer. Underneath there is a spring. And that little center round thing is the valve stem. Okay, and then on this particular one, this bucket and this shim goes with it. So I want to show you what a shim is. This is just for you guys who have never done this before. You just kind of want to see. This is the shim, and that thing sits right in this little circle on top of the valve stem, and they have different thicknesses. It has to go in just exactly perfect, by the way. There you go. You can see right there they have different thicknesses, and that's how you create the right amount of spacing for the lash, or the space between your cam and the valve. When they say adjusting the valves, what they're talking about is adjusting the thickness of that shim to make sure you have the proper clearances that the motor was designed for. So that's the shim, and then this bucket slides over the top just like this. Maybe. You have to get it in just perfectly. There you go. It slides down like that, and then the cam pushes on it. So the thickness of that little shim is what makes your spacing correct or not correct. We don't even care what these are right now because we're going to put all new valves in this engine, so we're going to have to readjust everything, so it doesn't even matter what's in there right now. Now sometimes you can actually remove the actual valve on your own, and it's a real pain in the butt to do. I'm going to try it. If Rojo's eye gets put out, you guys, wasn't my fault, right? That's pretty tight. So what you do is you try to put a little paper towel or something underneath to stop the valve from opening, and then you take anything you have and you push down on this ring retainer, the spring retainer. There you go. Did you guys hear that pop? That pop was the loosening of the spring retainer over the retaining clip. So I'm going to push down and use a, there we go. This is one little spring retainer clip. It's a little half moon shaped piece. It's got a little ridge on the inside that goes in the little retaining landing on the valve stem. It's hard to see. Let me get the other one out and you can see it. Oh, it popped out. There's the other one. Okay. And then you're going to have a ring retainer, a spring retainer, excuse me. That's this piece right there. And those little keepers go right down inside like this around the valve head, and I'll show you on the valve head in just a second. This particular model has 2 springs, a double spring, like that. And then you have, right down inside there, you have what's called a valve seal and the valve. And I'm going to tip this up and you can see us push the valve out. There we go. Out comes the valve. And it's really pretty worn. There's quite a groove in there. It's got a lot of miles on it. If I turn it sideways, you guys might can see the groove. See if I can find a good example. Right there, there's kind of a groove right in there. Okay, it's not flat. A new valve job will be flat. And this right here is the what's called the seat. And that valve is definitely worn out. There's just a teeny bit of material left on the top of this. So it's getting new valves anyway. We're not worried about it. So we'll take the valves out, and right down in here, you see that little nubbin poking out there? A nubbin? Nubbin
Yep,
poking out?
We got it.
That little nubbin right there is the bottom of the valve guide. And you can actually press out that guide. You can heat the head up. And there's a tool that you can put in there, and you can use a hammer drill or whatever, and you can actually wrap it out, or an air chisel with the right tool on it, and it'll pop out. Now the last thing, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it. I'm going to try if I can. My little dental picks. Woohoo! No, I'm not a dentist, everybody. I've been in the dentist forever. And you can pull this seal off. Maybe. Oh, it's about there. It's going to come right in my eye. Oh. Okay, everybody, this is what's left of the seal that I just reefed trying to get it off. It's pressed on. I tore half the seal off, but this is basically what a valve seal looks like. This rubber part goes around the valve stem like this as the valve goes up and down, homie. Mm-hmm. And if the valve seal gets worn, then oil can seep past through there and make it burn oil too. So that's why we're replacing all the valve seals. But essentially, there you go. So you got cams, buckets, shims, retainers, keepers, valve seal. That's it. Now, for the other reveal, not only are we going to do a complete valve job with new valves, new guides, new seals, everything to make this motor nice and clean, we're actually going to have a local shop here in Utah do some porting and polishing, okay? Now, I've done porting and polishing on automotive motors. They're a lot easier. These are little teeny weeny ports that, I mean, you can't hardly get into. Plus, the problem is I don't have a flow bench. And to do porting and polishing right, you need to have a flow bench. And what that is you basically attach to the motor an air supply or vacuum, and you can measure how much air is going through the motor. And what you do is you end up changing the way these ports are shaped, or make them larger, to increase the airflow in and out of the motor. To make this 351 kit run like it should run, I want to increase the port sizes and do some flow work and try to get as much air in and out of there as I can. It's not terribly expensive for what I'm trying to do. The one other thing they've had good success with is increasing the size of the intake valve 1 millimeter. The only problem with that is the only valves you can get for that are kibble white valves, and unfortunately I've not had good success with kibble white valves. Buddies of mine have run them in other motors, and I've had a problem in every single motor that I've been associated with. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to run the stock OEM intakes and exhausts, and I'm going to have it ported and polished. And when that head comes back, it'll be ready to shim, get the cam set up right, and the new cylinder, and we'll put it all back together, clean it up real good, and it'll be ready to go back in the frame. So that's the plan with the motor, everybody. Any questions, let me know. Dinner's ready, so Rojo and Duff Factor are heading out. Peace out.